Hey, what's up, everybody? It's BDF44 coming at you with another video. Okay, so you know what we're here to talk about. Kevin Durant and his performance this evening in Game 5. So, I made a video a few days ago just basically stating my opinion of the situation in regards to KD and what he was forced to do. And the circumstances he would more than likely have to handle on his own because, of course, KD being the only healthy net out there in terms of the superstars, it would be on him to kind of go off and have a historic game, try to clinch stranglehold on this series. So, basically KD answered the bell, to say the least. Homeboy came out of there with 49 points. I think it was like 17 or 18 rebounds, 10 assists. Here's the thing. I said it in my video. He's capable of doing this. And I want to give credit to a guy by the name of James Harden, who was not fully healthy, who didn't score a single point in the first half, but came out there and gave KD the threat of his greatness that gave KD just enough room to be able to maneuver in that game. His presence helped. Even though he wasn't himself, his presence helped. It was all KD really needs. And that's the thing, when you're a great player, especially when you're an elite level player, when you're in a situation like this, what you need is the threat of someone else to create just a little space for you to operate so that the entire defense can't collapse on you. And even though they do have players like Jeff Green, who really played well tonight, guys like Joe Harris, who can create, opportunities to do that as well, it's nothing like having somebody like James Harden to keep the defense honest. It's nothing like somebody you can give the ball to, like James Harden, who could just allow KD to take a play off here or there. Because I'm going to tell you something. KD exerted a hell of a lot of energy, especially in that fourth quarter. Now, here is something I want to say about that fourth quarter, because to be honest with you, the highlights just didn't tell me the story. Somewhere around the, I'd say 11-minute mark, between the 11-minute mark and maybe like the 9-minute mark of the fourth quarter, the highlights just didn't tell us a story. It went from a 9-point deficit to a 2-point deficit for the Nets without a shot being taken. So I'm imagining there was some fouls called, maybe something going on. I would need somebody to explain to me what happened there, because I just don't know. And to be honest with you, I don't want to speculate or say that it looks that something happened there that kind of closed the gap for the Brooklyn Nets that wasn't necessarily organic. I would need somebody to educate me on that, because I just, there's a lot of things that could have happened, and the highlights just don't tell you that story. But one thing that was for certain, the Nets were down 9, and then they were down 2, and not a single shot was taken. So that just tells me that there were fouls called, maybe a technical called, something unnatural happened, and it was likely the referees involved in it. So maybe they were good calls. I don't know. You would have to tell me. But I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. It was what was necessary. The threat of Harden was enough. KD did what KD was supposed to do. Now, if James Harden's not down there, do I think KD's doing all of that? I have to see the game. The highlights didn't tell me that story necessarily. But what I can tell you is the threat of James Harden, in theory, should have been able to give him enough space to maneuver, and it looked like it did. But you got to give KD the lion's share of the credit. The Bucks were winning that game. They had as much as, I think, a 15 or a 16-point lead as late as the late third quarter or something like that. They were up big for most of the game. The first half, like I said, James Harden didn't score. It was looking kind of crazy. Pat Connaughton was out there looking good out there for the Bucks. Giannis had it going. I think he went off and had like 30 and had some big numbers himself. But ultimately, this is a bad night for the Bucks. It's a bad night for the Bucks. Even though James Harden came back, and that did affect things, they should not have lost this game. Not with James Harden going for 8 points. He played in this game. He got his feet wet. Next game, he's knocking y'all off. KD gave him a boost tonight in terms of just doing exactly what was necessary to assure that they don't have to go down in this series. Let me tell you something. I don't have the Bucks winning the next game. Not if James Harden's playing. They're done. They're cooked. You can't lose this game. That's too much of a demoralizer for your team. When you know damn well you're fully healthy, fully deep, and have a chance to get a stranglehold on a team that's clearly better than you, and you fail to do so, the only hope the Bucks have is the fact that the game's going to be in Milwaukee. But unfortunately, I don't think that matters after the game KD just had. He's bringing his game to Milwaukee, and he's going to knock y'all off. So that's what's about to happen to the Bucks. This has not been the most predictable series, but I can tell you the one thing that's been running consistent in these entire playoffs is once a knockout blow is given, teams ain't coming back. Look at the playoffs. Once a knockout blow is given, teams are rarely coming back. Now I got to give credit to teams like the Clippers who are defining that. They're defining that. But most of these other teams, man, nah. When it's over, it's over. So we're seeing the defining of the separation in terms of teams who are better than one another. We're seeing if there's a way to pull away, teams are trying to pull away. And the Brooklyn Nets showed me a lot tonight about the resolve that they have as a team. James Harden showed me a lot tonight about what he's willing to do to sacrifice for that team. And KD didn't surprise anyone when he went off for a triple-double and 49 points in a clinching Game 5 because he's that great. Now, I did come up here and say that I think the karma, and everybody's talking about in regards to Kyrie Irving and stumping on Lucky's eye, was really probably KD's karma because of kind of how things have been going with him and how he kind of left some teams high and dry to align himself with its opportunity to continue to have viable opportunities to win championships. And while that is obviously the name of the game, KD is one of the few players in this era that we believe could have dominated it, and without all of that. So it's like, we knew you could do this. You knew you could do this, but you wouldn't allow yourself to display a leadership level that would let people see that you were capable of winning in a way that didn't look like you were stacking the deck for yourself. And even though LeBron did the same, or a lot of players who did the same, it would be nice if we could have seen him do the I'm going to do it by myself thing at least once or twice. And he just never allowed himself to face that type of pressure. And it looked weak to a lot of people. It looked like he was willing to go into situations that made life easier for himself to the very detriment of his own teams that he was leaving, to the detriment of his own career, obviously, as it pertains to being compared to players that he should be compared to. I think the only reason why Kevin Durant is arguably as good as LeBron James is because he has talent in areas that no one else has. He has the ability to score in ways that no one else does. And because he's that type of weapon, because he does facilitate better than people give him credit for, he showed that tonight. Because he rebounds better than people give him credit for, he showed that tonight. Because he drives better, like he does all of these things better than people even give him credit for. And the reason why he doesn't get that credit is because he's allowed himself to be in these situations that look so very stacked up. So KD, you may have done the right thing in that same breath, because if he didn't allow himself an opportunity to be on stacked decks, he probably would have worn his body out. Especially with the type of weapon he is, he would have been the highest usage shooter probably ever. And maybe that would have worn him down. With some of the injury issues that he's had, maybe that was the right move for his career. I'm not one to say. But what I can say is, tonight he showed us that he's capable. He was always capable of winning more than everyone else. And I said that. I was like, look, KD was the guy in this league that most people believe if you give him a solid team, he can lead that team to a championship. That was the problem with KD, especially in his prime when he went to Golden State. He could have went to any team. That man could have went to the Orlando Magic and turned them into a real contender in the Eastern Conference. He could have went to the Phoenix Suns before all of this and turned them into a real contender in the Western Conference. Like, there was nowhere he couldn't have went, did what it is that he does, and help a franchise. But he decided to go where superstars were already at And he had come from a situation where Superstar was already at, and he felt like that wasn't good enough. And it rubbed people the wrong way, man. Especially some of the people who it meant the most to them that he stayed with them. So, his legacy off the court, is that of somebody who's been defensive of that, and it's been one to talk reckless, so to speak, about whatever he feels, and that's his right. But it comes at a price. But tonight, I gotta say, he backed it up. He has the right to say whatever he wants. He could tell us all to go to hell, because anybody that doubted him in any way is going to have to eat crows tonight. Now, fortunately for myself, I left room for that, because I told y'all in my video, even throughout all that I was saying, but the thing about KD is, he's capable of doing that. I told y'all, he needs to go for 40 to 50 points in order for them to win. And while the situation didn't look probable without James Harden, I would imagine James Harden was going to try to play. It's like I said, he was managing that hamstring, and of course Kyrie wasn't going to be able to go. And I knew that if there was a way James Harden could go out there at least give them something, it was going to be something that they needed him to do. Now, whether or not he was going to be willing to do that or whether or not he would be clear was a whole nother story. But I'd imagine after the season that he's had, he don't want to go home early, sitting on the sideline, if he could do anything at all to provide some support. So, and being that they're in New York, it would be wise for him to do so if he can. So, I think he made the right decision, and I don't want to take away from KD in any way, but I just want to give James Harden all the credit in the world, and also Steve Nash as well. He managed the situation. He found a way to ultimately press the right buttons and get something out of his team in these circumstances. And as a rookie coach, that's a big deal. So we would have definitely gotten on his case if they wouldn't have won this game. So we had better give him some credit for being on the winning side of it as well. So I wanted to do that for sure. And shout out to everybody else on the Nets. Obviously, the highlights didn't really tell me the story. The first half, I was kind of I knew what was going on. I had kind of already seen highlights of that part. So for me, it was just like, I want to see what happened in the second half. And KD came through in heroic fashion and just had a legendary, legacy-defining type of playoff performance. And he is redefining what it means to have an Achilles injury, quite honestly. Now, granted, he had almost 2 years to heal from his, and that is a big deal. You need time to heal. But what KD has shown us, like Kobe Bryant, like Wesley Matthews, and like several others, if you can come back from this injury, if you have the right skills, you can manage. And KD showed us exactly that. He continued to drive at the basket. He continued to shoot contested shots, and he continued to make them because his talent indicates that that's exactly what he's able to do. And the injury was not a deterrent to that this evening. Now, here's the thing. Going forward, after they get out of this series, assuming they win the next game, they're going to have to manage that now. KD did this tonight. He's capable of doing this many nights, but you don't want him doing this every night, especially the way that he was driving the ball again. He's defining what it means to have an Achilles injury, but you don't want to push that. You don't want to push the ability for him to continue to dominate. You want to get as much as you can out of others. You want to rest him as much as possible. I would not be at all upset at the Brooklyn Nets if they rested KD to start the next series. I'm not saying that you rest him for more than one game, but game one of the next series, I would limit his minutes. I would do what I can to kind of hide him a bit, try to feature some other people if I have the ability to do so, especially if James Harden's back for real. Yeah, I think I would try my best to assure that he doesn't play no 45-minute games like that. No. He did it tonight, and I'm sure he could do it tomorrow. But if we're talking about another 10-plus games of this, I'm still concerned about that. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I'm still a bit concerned about that. But all in all, what needed to be done was done tonight. KD was legendary. It's his night. But this series is not over. It's going back to Milwaukee. And Milwaukee's going to have something to say about it. They're proud. They are a proud team. They've been through some battles. They have the requisite amount of heart-filled role players and players on a team like Bobby Portis, uh, people like Brooke Lopez, who shot the ball well tonight. Um, Obviously, Chris Middleton's found his stroke. They're going to need to continue to get a lot out of those guys in Game 6 if they want to have a victory in that game. And so we'll see, man. I'm really not certain if the knockout blow this go round will hold steady. But what I will say is the rest of the playoffs will show us that it's exactly what goes down. When you have a demoralizing loss like this one, you don't get back up in 2021. So we'll see if that holds true. I think I'll leave it at that. My name is BDF44. KD, man, 49. He's that dude. We just have to accept it.